How hot yoga teachers achieve and unlock success. I've been teaching for over 43 years and I'm going to share with you tips and secrets on how you can better connect with your students. Which brings us right to tip number 1, and that's caring for your students. When they know that you're in their corner, when they know that you probably know their practice better than they do because you can't see the forest from the trees, and they know you're invested in their future to help heal, to help them get to the next level, what a difference it's going to make. When they come into your studio, it's like they've come home. When they have that feeling, the energy of the studio, the energy in the classroom will soar. That student connection synergy that you want to create, asking them how they are, asking them if they have any injuries, or you know about their injury, how is it doing? Is it getting any better? Maybe offer them tips for the next pose that they're going to do to modify to help heal that injury. And when they know you're in their corner, what a difference it makes. We want to create that synergy. Before we continue on, if you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing, hit the notification bell. You want to learn all about hot yoga, tutorials, flows, factoids, hit the subscribe button and the like button right now. And make sure you watch the video all the way to the end because by far the last tip is going to be the most important tip. And if you're not practicing all of these tips, it could be the reason why you're not having that success and that true connection with your students. Now, I happen to have a unique way of connecting with my students, and that's with encouragement and correction in the classroom. Because I've been practicing so long, 44 years, teaching for almost 43 years now.
I think that's a long time.
I can help just about anybody at any level get to the next level in their practice in the classroom. I'm encouraging, I'm correcting, I'm making individual corrections. Now that could be a controversial subject.
Leave me alone, leave me alone!
Some people don't like to make individual corrections. They don't want to necessarily call people out. If that's the case, then do it before class and do it after class. But when they know you're invested, there's that connection, that makes all the difference. Tip number 2 is really knowing the information. If you're a new teacher, here's a great tip. Practice teaching the cues. Practice teaching the instructions of the poses that you teach in class out loud. Especially if you're just learning how to teach. The words have to become automatic, and that's when you can start playing with the nuances on how you say things. In the Barkan Method Teacher Train Program, that's one of the things that I do is coach you in creating variety of tone. Because if we teach in the same repeated pattern of speech, that's going to be a tip that's going to come a little bit later on how to break that pattern. If you're continuing to talk in that repeated pattern of speech, it's going to start to sound trance-like, like elevator music. They're going to tune you out. But before we can get to the nuances, you need to practice what you're saying and your cues out loud. If you're interested in becoming a Barkan Method hot yoga teacher, I have live trainings and online trainings. The online option, you can start right away. Live trainings for 2025. In May, we're going to Costa Rica. In June, we're going to Iceland. In August, West Virginia. I put links in the description below. We'd love to have you join the Barkan Method family. Bringing us to the next tip, consistent timing. Know how long you're holding each pose and work to be consistent each day. When your students know that your timing is consistent, then they trust you. If you're not consistent, they're not going to trust you.
I don't trust you.
And if they don't trust you, they're just going to give up. They're constantly going to give up because they know you're just going to ramble on. You're not keeping track. Now, every now and then I may have a new person that I may be teaching for a little bit longer, or I may be coaching somebody or coaxing them to the next level. So I may hold a pose a little bit longer. But for the most part, you ask my students, I'm very consistent. And when you're consistent and they trust you, now they know how much time they have in a particular pose and they're going to put forth their best effort. Because this is now a very important part of yoga in the hot yoga world. And that's this mantra, less in the beginning, more at the end. You want to slowly build momentum in each posture that you're practicing so that by the end of the pose, you're peaking at that full level and that full expression. Now, if your teaching is consistent, they know that you're consistent, then they're going to build up that energy, they're going to build up that dynamic, and they're going to peak out at the end. But if all of a sudden you're inconsistent and you just stop the pose, you have not given them a chance to get to that full expression and that full place. So make your timing consistent. Next tip, leave your new students alone. They don't want the attention. A very common thing for new teachers teachers is they put too much attention on their new students, especially their brand new students. They're compelled to get them to do the best yoga they can, or compelled to get them into the right position. So when should you be addressing new students? Number one, if they're doing a position and the alignment is off where they can hurt themselves, you got to make sure to correct that position so they don't hurt themselves. In the hot yoga world, there's a couple postures that you have to keep an eye out for. One is the eagle pose. A lot of times people get their hands wrong. You got to make sure their hands are correct. The standing bow, a lot of times they turn their hand this way to twist, grab their foot, opposed to this way. Eagle pose, standing bow, also third part awkward pose. Even if they don't have any issue, which you wanted to ask first if they have any issue, but if they don't have any issue, a lot of times it's an awkward pose, no pun intended, to get into, especially the third part. A lot of times they go so far forward and their knees come up. You can gently place their hand on their shoulders. So she's going to come up on her toes, third part. And what happens is the body comes really far forward because they're trying to hold on to each other. They come down and their knees stick up in the air, way high, as the body comes forward. Bring your knees way up in the air. Yeah. So what you want to do as a teacher, you can gently place your hands at their shoulders and tell her to bring her upper body back and her knees down. There's again the knees down again. There's that knee down thing again. So once again, up, 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 up. Body back, knees down. That little hinge from here to here actually makes it easier holding on too tight. But beside that, leave them alone. They don't want the attention. And here's the other thing. You may never see them again. They may never come back to your class. And if you're putting all your attention on your new people, then you're neglecting all your regular students, the ones that come every day that really warrant your attention.
Don't forget about us.
The ones that come every day to pay the rent. And if you're a studio owner, you know what I'm talking about. You don't want to neglect your regulars for somebody you may never see again. Especially, they don't want the attention anyway. They start coming the second day, third day, you can start giving them a little more attention, a little more help. They're not going to get it in the first day. They're not going to get it in the first week. They're not going to get it in the first year. Take your time. Leave the new students alone. And the last tip, and the most important tip by far, drum roll, Rochelle, you must break your repeated pattern of speech. This is something that I work with in my live trainings, but especially on the online teacher training program option, where people send videos of their teaching each week, and I give you feedback and coaching to help you break the pattern, because it's much easier said than done. What I'm talking about is, if you hear a teacher, and this is very common in yoga class, if they're talking in the same pattern of speech for a long period of time, every single pose sounds the same, every sentence sounds the same. They have there's a cadence to the voice. Bring your arms overhead, interlace the fingers under the foot, extend the leg back, for example. So now we've got a teacher voice, and it's important to have a teacher voice and create a cadence. But it's important to break it. The only way you're going to get the student's ear is if all of a sudden you say something in a different tone. It's what I call variety of tone. And this is where I would help coach you if you decide to become a Barkan Hot teacher. And finding that conversation tone and finding your own unique, authentic voice. Because everybody's different. I don't want you to teach like me. I don't want you to teach like Bikram. I want you to teach like you. And we want to find who you are and bring that out. But here's the problem with that. The big issue is it's vulnerable to speak in your authentic voice. A lot of times teachers will hide behind the teacher voice. They hide behind the script. In the Bikram world, they hide behind the dialogue because they have those words are there, and they know if they say those words in repeated pattern of speech that they can get through the class and they can offer instruction. The problem is your words get lost. The problem is if you're in that repeated pattern of speech, people tune you out. They know what you're saying. In the Bikram world, they know what posture is next. In the Barkan world, we're also consistent in doing the same postures each day, but I change it up. Take a look at this video and I explain the difference between Bikram and Barkan and postures that I add and change up on a daily basis. But when we can break the pattern and when we can be authentic, that's how we get the student's ear. That's the only way they're going to hear what you're saying, and now you're offering information that's going to help them, not just regurgitating script or dialogue so you can just guide them through. We don't want to just be a guide. We want to be a teacher to offer knowledge to get them to that next level. Here's one example. In a teacher training program, somebody may be in that repeated pattern of speech. Let's say we're doing triangle pose, for example. After they're finished, I'll say to them, what helps you when you're doing triangle pose? What helps you in the pose? And they may say to me, when I'm twisting my upper body back and keeping my hip forward, I can really feel an opposite direction. There's this standing spine twist motion that's happening. So that I got to make sure my hip stays forward. I go, that's the tone. That's the authentic voice. Opposed to keep your hip forward, upper body's twisting back. It's like a standing spine twist pose. Now you're in the pattern. But when we break it, when we keep that hip forward and now twist the body back on that opposite direction, all of a sudden you hear how the sound changes. Not what I'm saying, but how I'm saying it. Now we've got that authentic tone. And now sometimes the students will actually turn and look at you, thinking that you're talking right to them because it's such a conversation, authentic tone. And this conversation voice, this playing with the teacher voice and conversation voice is so important that I guarantee it's going to elevate you in your connection with your students. This is what I will help coach you with in the Barkan Method Teacher Training Program. So once again, if you're interested, I put links in the description below. We'd love to have you join the family. But to get out that authentic tone, to create variety of tone. So we're not just speaking the same way for 90 minutes or 75 minutes. We actually want to bring information to the classroom in our own authentic tone, which like I said before, it can be vulnerable. And also it's much easier said than done. That's why I'd love to help coach you to find that authentic tone, to find that conversation voice, to better help you connect and achieve and unlock success as a hot yoga teacher. So that's our episode for today. Thank you so much for watching. If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing. Hit the like button and the subscribe button. You want to learn all about hot yoga, tutorials, flows. Hit the like and subscribe button right now. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye, everyone.